Screen time sabotages problem solving. Now, what do I mean by that? Your brain is only able to handle 7 bits of information plus or minus 2. Now, if you're someone who is prone to distraction, maybe is diagnosed with ADHD, maybe has some other learning disability or processing deficit, your ability to process that volume of information actually is much less than that. And the children that I work with in my clinic oftentimes only can process 2 to 3 bits of information at a time before they start getting more confused. Now, when we think about this as it relates to screen time, think about all those videos that are out there on TikTok, on YouTube, on Instagram that are very, very short duration that our children are watching in quick succession. A minute here, 30 seconds there, 2 minutes there, 10 seconds. Over and over, our children are scrolling through things on social media that are very, very quick at a very, very fast rate. And the same thing happens with a lot of video games that are moving very quickly, where there's lots of lights and sound. You're always changing things, adjusting your character, trying to buy things from the store. There's a lot that's happening all at once. And the challenge is that because the brain, especially a child's brain, isn't meant to process so many bits of information at once, our brain is busy taking in all the lights and the sounds and the information and the experiences, piling it all up. And it's supposed to be sent to the other parts of our brain once it goes through a filter, and our brain decides what the most important information is. Now, that's an issue. If you've just watched 20 YouTube videos, there really isn't a way for your brain to figure out what the most important bit of information is. So what you get is a bottleneck of lots and lots of small bits of information that aren't really interconnected, and your brain doesn't know how to make sense of it. So it doesn't know what to filter out, what to pay attention to, and what to send up to the other parts of the brain to think deeper about. So what happens? We get moments of orienting to new things, new stimuli, new information, but never get to that place of deeper thinking. And that's actually how people develop working memory and problem solving skills. So when we identify children as having executive function deficits, we're also saying that they often have difficulties in processing and working memory. They often have difficulty problem solving situations and experiences that they encounter. And we work with them a lot to actively develop those skills and coping strategies to make it through the day. But what we forget is that the world itself, full of technology and full of screen time, is actually wiring our children for distraction, not wiring them for working memory and problem solving. So their capacity to be able to think through these problems without getting disorganized and dysregulated is much, much smaller than the generation before them. And I think that's a really important thing to keep in mind, because then we have to ask ourselves, do we stick with the old models of therapy and counseling? Do we stick with the old models of teaching and the old ways of helping kids learn and think deeper when they are constantly in a world that is just grabbing at their attention? And I would say that the answer to that is, it's not that we just change our teaching to be like what screen time is like, but rather that we keep that in mind as we're engaging with children and show them how to create space in their brain, create white space around them so that there is space to think deeper. Now, I just listened to a 3-hour podcast. A lot of our kids wouldn't even do anything like that. But what I did as I was listening is I had the ability to pause when there was a thought that struck me, write down my notes, think a little bit more deeply about the topic, and then go back and continue listening to the webinar. Now, if it was live, that definitely wouldn't be happening. But the point that I'm trying to make is that we never do that with those short videos. We're looking for things that make us laugh, that make us have fun, that bring a smile to our face, that are really quick rewards, but are not building the skills that the brain needs to actually engage in things that bring children more fulfillment and a deeper level of meaning and purpose and goal directedness to their life. Because you can't engage in goal directed activities if you're not able to problem solve, come up with a plan of action, figure out how to move through it, the steps that you need to go through. And then when it doesn't work out perfect, go back and make adjustments and then try again. It's not enough just to make a list for a child to fill in the gap that we identify in the working memory and the problem solving and the planning and sequencing. We actually need to, with the understanding that the world of technology is changing a child's experience with the world, we need to counter that by putting in activities and methods into our teaching, into our counseling sessions, into our therapy sessions that are going to guide children towards having white space, building working memory, giving time for the brain to process information and think deeper about a topic without getting pulled into another visual distraction or clickable link on their Chromebook.